Hey guys, welcome to another video, and we will be watching some true animated horror stories. So, might as well get right into it.
My name is Amber, and ever since my childhood, I've experienced sleep paralysis a lot more than the average person. And let's just say, it's one of the most unpleasant things you can experience. Since childhood, I've always had vivid hallucinations when I was experiencing sleep paralysis, and they've always scared me, even to this day. This story is one of the most terrifying things that have and ever will happen to me in my lifetime. It all started in late January. I had just moved into this new house in a small village on the island of Hawaii. My house was near a deep pond, and I got it for a good deal because it was supposedly haunted and no one else wanted to purchase it. But I've never really believed in the paranormal or anything like that, so I just saw the good deal on a decent sized house and took it. A few weeks after buying the house,
I would never live alone.
Yeah,
It's
me
the
either.
creepiest thing ever, especially next to just a forest and water. That's so creepy.
Yeah, that'd be so far from civilization. I'd be like,
And I've heard so many stories about this type of stuff where they just die.
a big snowstorm hit one night, causing the power to go out and snowing me in. I couldn't see a thing, so I decided that I would head to bed early and get an early start on unloading boxes the next day. I hopped into bed, pulled my blankets over me, and fell asleep in the pitch black room.
Why would you live by yourself if you had sleep paralysis?
I woke up to the noise of tapping at my window.
What is that?
what the heck?
That?
I tried to get up but realized I couldn't move at all.
Hello?
Sleep paralysis took over my whole body.
Imagine if someone just I'm not stopping there. I'm just going back a little bit. Okay, imagine if someone put hello, is this the Krusty Krab, and then just that thing came up and it was like, no, this is Patrick.
Whole body. The strange boy kept staring at
That's
me.
a boy.
His eyes were pitch black as if he had no pupils.
That was a troll.
He had a wide, inhuman, devilish grin, and his teeth were huge. I was terrified and wanted to scream, but I couldn't and was forced to watch him. I kept telling my mind that it was just a hallucination, but it was a lot more vivid than any other hallucination that I had ever had. Then in a split second, he was gone. I calmed myself, thinking it's all going to be over soon now. My fear started to rise when I heard the noise of clanging in the kitchen. Did he break into my house?
Yep.
I was getting paranoid. I couldn't move. I strained my eyes to try to see the bedroom door through the darkness, and I could see something. A figure standing on the other side of my bedroom door.
Through my bedroom door crack. That's why I
He
close my
slowly
door now.
opened the door. It was the boy.
Surprise, little trucker.
I could hear every footstep he made. He continued to creep towards my bed, and I could see his devilish grin from the corner of my eye.
No need to zoom
He
in
just
that
stood there
much.
for minutes, and it was lasting longer than any sleep paralysis I had ever experienced. I felt that I was about to die. I was just praying it would be over soon.
Yeah, keep your eyes closed.
My prayers
too.
were answered, and I was finally able to move again. The boy was gone.
I thought that was him sitting on the bed.
The next morning when I woke up, I felt something strange as I walked on the carpet. The carpet was soaking wet. And at that point, it hit me. Was it really a hallucination? Or did someone actually come into my room last night? I shared this incident with some of the neighbors, and it turns out there was a spooky story about the pond near my new house. Back in 1947, a group of kids were playing on the banks of the pond. One boy accidentally tripped over a log and fell into the water. Before any of the other children could react, the boy sank beneath the water surface.
He must be fat.
For a few moments they waited for him to resurface, but there was no sign of him. Horrified, they ran back to the village to get help. Some local men came as fast as they could and dived into the pond searching for the young boy. They were terrified by what they found. The boy was sitting on a rock at the very bottom of the
That's
pond.
scarier than the
His
boy
arms
that
were
was
hanging
younger.
down by his sides and his
Wait,
body was
wait, that
swaying
is
back
the
and
boy.
forth with
Yeah,
the
that
currents.
But
His
still,
eyes
right
were
there,
wide
that's
and his mouth
terrifying.
was hanging open, but he was dead in the water. The eerie sight sent shivers down the spines of the men who had dived in to save him. They were deeply disturbed and said it was such an unusual way to drown. It was as if the boy had calmly sat down on the rock and waited there to die. Ever since, bizarre rumors began to spread around the area. Many villagers believe that the ghost of the drowned boy lurked beneath the deep waters of the pond. They said that at night he would come to the surface cold, wet, and shivering, his icy hands clutching at unsuspecting victims and trying to pull them into his watery grave. According to the rumors, he was trapped in this world by accident, and the only way he could escape was to find someone else to take his place at the bottom of the pond. As I mentioned before, I don't really believe in the paranormal, but that creeped the hell out of me. After that, I put my house up for sale as I am no longer able to sleep peacefully in
for
this
sale
house.
signs in Roblox.
A strange, eerie feeling always keeps me restless.
I should shut
But
up now.
unfortunately, so far, no one has come to view the house or made any offers, as it was famous for being haunted. My current situation does not allow me to rent a house, so I am stuck here. I just hope I am able to get out of this place.
So every night that guy can just come into her house.
No, that was only one.
No wonder it was so long. Do the 8.
In all my years of being a
We're
police
only gonna do,
officer in
like, one or
Floyd
two
County,
of these
Georgia,
ones, and we're gonna be
I had
done
only
with it.
experienced 2 horrifying situations. I'll share with you the worst of the 2. It was a slow night, and I was patrolling the dirt roads in my cruiser. At this particular spot, there were tiny woods on both sides of the road. And then it all started. I spotted somebody jumping into the woods on the left. I only saw half of them though. They were gone so quickly. I pulled up closer and shined the spotlight into the woods. I didn't see them. Unfortunately, it was kind of my job to check on things like this, so I hesitantly stepped out from the car and began searching.
Here's his license plate number.
In a moment like this, I was so ready to pull my gun, as I was actually terrified. And then, the cliched snap of a branch from behind a tree almost made me want to run back to the car, but I instead did my job and called for them to come out. Someone wearing a mask stepped out from the tree. I told them to raise their arms, take off their mask, and come to me slowly. They raised their hands, but they didn't remove the mask. I tried to demonstrate my authority by yelling this time, ordering them to take it off. They looked as if they were about to take it off, when suddenly, he or she looked to their left, and then back at me. I heard footsteps coming from my right. I drew my gun. I yelled as loud as I could for everybody to come out with their hands up. You may be thinking, why? Well, if you were in this position, in this setting, you would have been shitting yourself just like I was. Another person wearing a mask walked over. This one holding an axe. I had my gun locked on him. But suddenly, footsteps started coming from all directions. I looked around, and I was surrounded. There were at least 10 strangers wearing masks, surrounding me almost in a circle, with only an opening behind me. Half of them were armed with axes and the like. I stood there, gun raised, but not even aimed at anything at this point. I felt like I was going to throw up. One of them, I'm not sure which, finally broke the silence, telling me in a muffled, deep voice, "Go away." My heart dropped as he said this, in a way that I knew I was going to live. I turned and ran for the car, driving down the road half a mile, all while calling for backup. As you would guess, the whole group was gone from the woods when a search squad arrived. I have a theory on this, however. I believe that what I witnessed was some kind of fucked up secret society that was planning on trapping an innocent passerby, and I think that whoever jumped into the woods as I was passing recognized my car as a police car and tried to hide.
Anyway.
Had I not been a police officer, I believe they would have stopped me, led me to the woods, and done whatever this group does for its sick kicks.
Okay, I was like, that was 14 minutes. Like,
Oh, these are always creepy. Like, what the heck? Why do people online?
At the time of this story, I had already met a total of 3 people on Match.com. It didn't really work out with 2 of them, and the third one I dated for 4 months. After my breakup, I wanted to take a break from commitment and just find something more casual. And so I matched with a girl named Kylie, who I got along with decently well on the app. She seemed down to just come over to my apartment and hang out for the night. She showed up about half an hour later and seemed really quiet in person. We hung out in my room in the upstairs of my apartment for most of the night. We just talked for a while watching TV in the background. There were a bunch of awkward silences, but I did my best to fill them with new conversations. In the back of my mind the whole time I was thinking, are we gonna kiss? Does she expect me to move in for the kiss? How do I go about it? But hours of talking later, I started to realize there was something wrong with this girl. She became increasingly more emotionless. She was staring off across the room as she'd talk slowly, talking about increasingly deep and dark things. Then she said something surprising. She thanked me for allowing her to sleep over. Apparently, when I said she could come hang out for the night, she meant to literally stay the night. She got off the bed and asked what blankets she could use for the floor. I grabbed a couple blankets and pillows and made a sort of bed for her on the floor. She thanked me and then laid down on her side facing away from me. I guessed she was ready to go to sleep. I turned off the TV and closed my eyes. We didn't say a single word to each other, and I have to admit, it was very awkward. I fell asleep probably half an hour after shutting the TV, but I awoke randomly in the middle of the night. I sat up and looked down at the floor, and was able to see that Kylie didn't appear to be laying on the floor anymore.
I'm gonna be so scared. It's
I
gonna be
flipped
like
on the
a jump
lamp
scare
and
or
looked around the room. She wasn't anywhere, actually. But just then, I heard a voice downstairs. It sounded like it could be Kylie. All the walls in my apartment are paper thin, so noise travels quite easily throughout it. I quietly left my room and stood at the foot of the top of the stairs, listening for what Kylie could be saying. All the lights upstairs were off, but she was talking in a low voice.
Please don't.
I just couldn't tell for sure what exactly she was saying. I figured she was on the phone with someone, but still, I went downstairs to check.
His eyes are
I
so
stepped into the
wide.
dark kitchen, and there she was. But she wasn't on the phone. She was just creepily sitting in one of the chairs facing the wall. She seemed to still be muttering to herself. I was frozen. All I could say was, "Kylie?" She turned her head to me slowly, looked at me for a few seconds, then turned back to face the
That was
wall.
not slow.
I went upstairs quickly to my room and crawled into my bed to call my dad. I had to call at least 3 times before he finally picked up, obviously sounding concerned. I told him in a quiet panic that some random girl from online was staying the night, and now she was sitting in my kitchen muttering to herself like a crazy person. He sounded confused as hell, but told me to call 911 if she seemed like she was having some kind of episode to safely get her out of there. Then I looked up and noticed a figure standing by my bedroom door in the dark. It was Kylie.
Let's go
All
do
I
the
saw
Michael
was the
Jackson
outline of her
Thriller
skinny
dance,
body.
you know?
She stood there for maybe 10 seconds. All I heard was my dad on the other end of the phone saying hello over and over. The next thing I saw was the silhouette of Kylie at my door suddenly charge at me in my bed as she began to scream.
Oh gosh.
She lunged at me and put her hands around my throat, trying to choke me. However, I was able to quickly overpower her and hold her down against the bed. I screamed at my dad to call the cops. I was able to drag the insane girl downstairs by the time the cops came. The cops took her away to fill out a few documents. I think it's safe to say that you should always meet people from websites and apps in a safe, public place first.
At the end of those videos, they always show them again somewhere.
Yeah. That was pretty good, I guess.
They
Well,
were-
I guess we all got scared.
No.
A little bit, at least. But, well, thanks for watching, and I really hope you guys didn't get super bored,
I
but
was eating cookie dough.
see ya.